This is Joseph Alexander Van Zandt. Today, I have a hypothesis with some evidence um, of how a how the heart works. The heart of most individuals, men, women, and to accept and to a certain expectation, primates, that is to say, monkeys, apes, orangutans, elephants, dogs, cats, are a class of things called mammals. Most mammals have hearts that work in a similar manner. The general theory is that there's something like a pump, that they pump oxygen from the lungs and they mix it with blood, and and the blood is circulated throughout the body through veins. Veins meet arteries. In other words, blood going from the heart is a vein. It meets at a capillary where it's distributed throughout the body, and then from arteries, and then after the capillary, it turns into an artery, and it goes back to the heart where it's mixed again. How this happens, it's not clear. In a very general sense, most people, especially in the modern sense, I mean, the last 400 or so years, came to the conclusion that electricity is involved. Electricity is involved because if you take someone, even people who are dead, there are people who are dead, physically dead, and you give them low voltage electricity, like it's called defibrillation. Defibrillating someone means you shock them with electricity. If you shock them with electricity and they're dead, they come back to life. So there's some association with electricity and bringing someone back to life who's dead. Oftentimes when this happens, they have a story. The story is that they were dead. They're in some world between life and death. Sometimes they want to come back. Sometimes they don't want to come back. Sometimes they're angry at you. I'm a physician, a doctor, and I, myself and many people know about electricity. My understanding is Benjamin Franklin, who's one of the founding fathers of the United States, was an electric person. He dabbled in electricity. Supposedly he attended the Paris peace talks in the American Revolution, but they called him Dr. Franklin because he knew how he knew about electricity. He knew how to bring dead people back to life. Supposedly he practiced in France. No one knew he was an American. He left, and later he returned. He was one of the few people who knew how to play chess. But in terms of electricity, it's very well documented that if you take something like a car battery has 12 volts, but a huge amount of current. But by current, I mean my definition. Different people have different definitions, but my definition is the amount of electrons flowing through the cable per second. A car battery has maybe 150, zillion electrons to 105th power per second, which is a huge number, but it's 12 volts. Volts is the difference between the negative side and the positive side. That's something, if you have a voltage reader, you can document that. There are many studies about electricity. Some of them have to do with Alzheimer's patients. The American Medical Association has some, Roche Biomedical has some, the Army Corps of Doctors has some, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act has some. They all have studies about electricity. One of the things about electricity is if you give someone a voltage of electricity, it increases their intelligence. Many people, myself among them, go to high school, college, grade school, and they actually do things you can't do. But there are many studies that if you give low voltage electricity, it increases your intelligence. No one ever knew how, even by theory, but it does. If you give yourselves too much, you'll die. I'll give you a very open example. If you're a mechanic, an auto mechanic, many auto mechanics for many years, I don't think you could do it now because the type of battery change, it's not clear why, but if you have an American car, let's say Ford, the Ford, GM, a Chrysler, a Buick, American Motors, and the car dies. It's not working. You could take jumper cables. You would put the jumper cables on the battery of the car that is not working. And if you had a friend, or sometimes the American Automotive Association, a girlfriend, a wife, sometimes you would do this as a favor. You would then run your car for about 10 minutes, and then you would hook the cables to your car. When you did that, there's a backflow of electricity. Sometimes people would often die. But if they wouldn't die, their intelligence would increase. Many auto mechanics who did that have IQs of over 200. But when you did that, the electricity, in other words, the car that wasn't working would work if you were to do it for about 10 minutes. But to do so, you put your life in your hands. Half the time people would die. The other times their intelligence would increase. Now, it was never understood how the intelligence, what would often happen. Later, per se, in the modern sense, but modern sense, I mean, the last 22 years or so, people started using different ways of defibrillating people. They started having direct contact, putting the battery on the skin or sometimes other areas. And that led to increased intelligence. I cannot say where they put it on because of lawsuits. Other people came to the conclusion. The American Medical Association has several textbooks. You can buy these textbooks. Several people died, and they're being sued. I'll just say, they put it on different places. But their intelligence would increase. And if they would be dead, they would be brought back to life. A lot of people in the military of the empire particularly, the military of the Federation, the military of the Federation of Planets, the military of the United States of America put low voltage electricity, or special forces does that sometimes as well, to increase intelligence or to do things you can't do. If you're asked to jog 10 miles and you put low voltage electricity, then increases your intelligence. The Olympics, the International Olympics, who pays if you win an International Olympics in the marathon or jogging, you're paid money, and but it's a special category because that you get because it's you have an advantage. If you do this without it, it wouldn't be illegal. It'd be unsportsmanlike competition. There's a special category for this. In any case, my theory is that the human heart is something like a spark plug for an internal combustion engine by the Ford Motor Company. The Ford Motor Company has this type of engine. My understanding is Yonkers Messerschmitt has this type, Chrysler has this type, Ford has this type, Daimler-Benz, which sells for Mercedes-Benz, has this type, and so does BMW. But the people at Ford said originally that I could use their name, and because they were investigating this, and so did the other companies I mentioned, as well as American Motors. But my theory is it would work something like this. In a car, an automobile, you have air. Air comes in. Air is mixed with fuel, gasoline or diesel. There's a spark of electricity that comes through the spark plug. In some cases, it's a timing belt. This is done through an internal combustion engine. Some cases, it's done through a timing belt. And then it ignites it. After that, the pistons go up and down because of the explosion. And that's what makes the car go. Okay, that's in a car. My hypothesis is that the human heart is the exact same thing. The human heart, you have blood, as I said before, being pumped in by the heart. You have oxygen coming from the oxygen is coming from the lungs. And then you have a spark of electricity. The spark of the blood is mixed with the oxygen, and you have a spark of electricity. I have there are several innovative medical imaging devices. One of them is by Manhattan Pharmaceuticals, which I will show at the end of the video, which shows a human heart pumping back and forth. But it's a videotape. But it also shows that that there's red. The red, I believe, is electricity. What you're seeing is the human heart pumping, and then mixing with oxygen, the spark of electricity, which ignites the oxygen, and it puts it into the blood the same way a spark plug does. I will show the video at the end. Manhattan Imaging, which is owned by Praetorian Guard, which is part of the Pfizer Pharmaceutical Alliance and the Eli Lilly Alliance, allowed me to show it. And that is my hypothesis. I will show that at the end. This is Joseph Alexander Benzan. Thank you for listening and your time.